There's been some growing concerns that there should be a bomber nerf, that they're just too powerful for their own good, and the weapon that dominates this conversation is the rotary cannon. So in this video, I wanted to break down some of the other weapons available to the Empire, and see where the weapons shine, and if they need to be brought in line with other weapons. Now unfortunately, private matches haven't been made available to us yet, but we can still get some interesting stats to compare across the board. First up is the regular TIE Fighter with its standard cannon. A great all-around choice, but doesn't excel in any category. Firing with a regular charge allows you to fire for up to 5 seconds, and according to the weapon stats, we do 480 DPS, for a total of 2,400 damage. Next, we overcharge with even power distribution. We fire for a total of 10 seconds, half of which we can assume is either double damage or plus half damage, so somewhere between 6,000 and 7,200 damage. And then to take a step further, we overcharge and distribute power to weapons, bringing us to 14 seconds of firing, adding an additional 2,880 to 3,840 damage. Moving on to the burst cannon, ideal for dealing lots of damage quickly with a DPS of 560, fires for a total of 4 seconds for 2,240 total damage. Overcharging brings it to 8 seconds for 5,600 to 6,720 total damage. When you add weapon distribution, it brings it to 11 seconds. This one is definitely geared towards dogfighting and cracking shields before your enemy has time to redistribute them. Next on the list is the Ion Weapon, used for disabling players and subsystem. Deals 1,680 ion damage that all ion weapons deal, can be fired for 5 seconds for a total of 8,400 ion damage. Overcharging the weapon gives you 10 seconds to fire for a max total damage of 25,200. Adding power can give you a 14-second burst. Moving on to the strangest weapon in the list is the Plasburst Laser Cannon, a charge weapon for close range damage. Numbers on this one is iffy, as I'm unsure if the DPS number is for the charge shot, as the charge shot uses all of your weapon's power even if it's overcharged. If you were to feather the trigger for multiple shots, you'd be able to fire for 2 seconds on its weakest damage, 3 seconds overcharge, and in roughly the same time if you give it all the juice. Now onto the TIE Interceptor with its standard laser cannons, being able to fire for 8 seconds. With 681.8 DPS, gives us 5,454 total damage. Now compare that with the TIE Standard Cannon, in the same amount of time can do 1,000 more damage and can still fire for 3 more seconds for 3,054 extra damage. Don't be afraid to use this for capital ship damage. So far, weapon firing times have been pretty consistent. And for all the weapons on the list, they follow the rule of double the power, double the firing time. The TIE Interceptor breaks this a bit for being able to fire for 14 seconds overcharge, only 6 extra seconds. With this though, the potential to deal at max 14,999.6 total damage. Distributing weapons bumps you up to 20 seconds. The Interceptor also receives the Burst Cannon, being able to only fire for 2 seconds, with a DPS of 666.7, gives us 1,333.4 damage. With Overcharge gives us 4 seconds, and brings the max possible damage of 4,000 damage. Weapon distribution will also give you 6 seconds. Compared to the TIE Burst Cannon, this may have smaller total damage, but you only have to keep your reticle on the target for a significantly less amount of time. Next is the Ion Weapon that can be fired for 7 seconds, dealing 11,760. The benefit is being able to fire for longer. Overcharge gives you 14 seconds for a max damage of 35,280. and power distribution gives you 18 seconds. The Interceptor also receives the Plasburst, which seems to have the same shooting stats as the TIE, but with 882 DPS. Moving on to my favorite ship, the TIE Reaper, and its standard cannons. Being able to fire for 8 seconds with 440 DPS gives you 3,520 total damage. Overcharging gives it 16 seconds for a possible max total of 10,560 damage. And can be extended to 22 seconds with weapon distribution. Onto its ion weapon that can be fired for 6 seconds for 10,080 damage, which I feel the number could be a little better as ion is more likely to be taken by support, but it's still better than the TIE Fighter, giving you some forgiveness. Overcharge can be fired for 12 seconds for a possible of 30,240 ion damage. With power brings you to 18 seconds. Now with all the other ships out of the way, we move on to the main course of the video, the bomber and its weapons. Its standard cannon can be fired for 9 seconds, the longest firing time of any of the other Empire ships, with a DPS of 640, dealing 5,760 total damage. Can be fired for an additional 9 seconds for 17,280 possible total damage. Overcharge plus power brings you to 23 seconds. Definitely highlights the bomber's role as a DPS machine. Its ion weapon can be fired for 7 seconds, overcharge to 16 seconds, with power bumps it up to 18 seconds, same as the Interceptor. Now I have saved the best for last, the monster that is the rotary cannon. Its DPS stat is 766.7 with a standard charge that can be fired for a total of 13 seconds, or a total of 9,967.1 total damage. Looking at the number, it actually seems like the standard Interceptor cannon potentially beats out the bomber for more damage in the same amount of time, if the overcharge multiplier is × 2. But the rotary cannon's firing can be extended up to 26 seconds. 13 of which will be at potentially 1,533.4 DPS for 19,934.2 total damage for the first 13 seconds of damage. If allowed, the full burst totals 29,901.3 total damage. And if powered to weapons, can be fired for 36 seconds. 36! So 18 seconds of 1,533 DPS, and your ship has the most health on the field to hang around and do that damage. With my limited playing with the weapon, you don't even need that time. Subsystems don't even last longer than 7 seconds or so. Now does this make it overpowered? In a competitive setting, I don't think so, as you're the slowest ship in the roster, and coordinated teams, I think, might be able to shut you down before bombers can get close. But for pickup groups, this can be an easy strat to follow, as the defenders just need to mess up for 5 seconds or so, 4 times for each subsystem, and it's game over. I also wanted to show that with power shunting, you can get full power rotary in 18 seconds. And here we have all the stats put together. It is interesting that some ships' standard weapons do fire longer than others, making me think some ships may have more energy generation than others. But that might be something to affect rebel ships more than the Empire, as they don't have shields. I would love to make that video for you, but this is probably my one video for this week, maybe next week. Thank you for coming and watching if you got this far. This took a lot of work, so I'd appreciate it if you left a like. Lets me know if I did a good job, and subscribe for more videos. I try to put out 2 videos a week. I also try to stream on Twitch Monday and Tuesday if I'm not editing a video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is the rotary cannon overpowered? With that, I bid you goodbye, and may the Force be with you.